Hello my friends and welcome, my name is Dennis and this is the latest update from Ukraine. We have numerous of the news to review, however let's start from the military map update. Ukraine went on a counterattack in one of the areas. It's not a big one, but very important. Actually could be the start of something really bigger. So let's zoom to the place we're speaking about Novoyehorivka village. It's the territory of the Luhansk Oblast. And the border with Kharkiv Oblast is very close. Actually, Russians almost fully occupied Luhansk Oblast. There are just several of the villages which are still under Ukrainian control. Well, today Ukraine went on a counterattack taking this ground. However, there is not yet the military map update for this hour, but we know that it is happening. How do we know it? Well, there were numerous of the reports from Ukrainian affiliated channels, from our army men, so this information went to the other analytic services and they already did the military map update. Like for example, we may see from the Miko 73 source, he's very fast in his updates and he says that there is just the infantry forces attacking, so not yet heavy armored vehicles, and from the information we have, Ukraine sent some of the reinforcements to the place. That's why maybe I think that it could be the start of something bigger, like for example advancing to this road. It is crucial for the Russian army supplies and also it plays a huge role in defense for Russia, even though they built the main defense lines behind it. Well, we understand that for now Ukraine should concentrate its forces to withstand against the Russian attacks, for example, on the east. But Russia is just forced to gather their resources in one direction, for example in Ocheretine and Toretsk. We're gonna speak about those directions later in this video. So Russians removed some of their resources and forces from different frontline directions to make more success on the east. So actually Ukraine now has the opportunity to advance forward in many of the directions which are now not that hard protected by Russia. As for example, it happened near Kreminna, so Ukraine now offends from this side in Terny and also in Serblansky forest, as we see. It only was possible because Russia weakened their forces in this direction. And Ukraine has also the counterattack attempt in Klishchiivka. The fight for this village is ongoing for several months. For now, as you can see, it's in a gray area and Ukraine tries to regain control over it. Well, actually around 2 months ago, Russians partially entered the village, but later on were forced to leave it. They also tried to advance from the north, but also were repelled. Well, we'll see how it goes. For now, Ukraine just uses the infantry forces. My friends, if you like the job that I do daily on YouTube and you want to support my efforts, you may also check out my Patreon page. It is available in the video description just below. Thank you so much for your motivation, inspiration, and your kind support. Stay awesome. For now, Russia is interested in this direction and this one. There are several moments for Russia on the south because they still try to get Vuhledar under control. It's very crucial for them because the railroad which they use for their supplies is under the constant Ukrainian strikes. So Russia needs to move forward to make it more safe for them. For this reason, Vuhledar is one of their main targets. But for more than 2 years, they're unable to achieve their goal. About the northern part of the Kharkiv Oblast, Ukraine has offensive or counter-offensive actions there right now. Nevertheless, Russia tries to keep position, so today they sent 3 more assault battalions to this place. They're really struggling with people. They have tremendous losses in Kharkiv direction, but they don't want to give up what they've took from Ukraine. But I think that after all, in a couple of months, Ukraine will be able to get rid of the Russian army which occupied this area. Alright, and we have the latest military update, so it's been confirmed that definitely Russia has this attack towards New York. They started 3 days ago, and for now they moved by this distance. It's not a lot. And also they still have this assault vector trying to reach Toretsk under the control, but in general it's the big urban territory. It's really hard for them to achieve their goal. That's why, yes, they move, they take some certain ground, but it's not the huge success of the Russian army. Where they have the most success is near Ocheretine. They sent lots of the forces, the majority of the forces. So it was yesterday and it is today. They took those fields, 3 lines, so kind of the big advancement for the last 24 hours, unfortunately. So in general, Russia still has the advantage over Ukraine on the front lines, but Ukraine has multiple of the attempts to regain the ground, and sometimes those attempts are quite successful. And Russians continue to use their mid waves. The new convoy was spotted by the Azov regiment. Here you may see lots of the Russian armored vehicles. The information about it went to the big screen because the drones, surveillance drones, they monitor the situation on the front lines 24/7. It's the non-stop operation. One drone flies, then the other drone flies, recharge the battery, fly again. So basically our guys see what is happening live on the front lines. Daytime, nighttime, doesn't matter because some of the drones equipped with thermal cameras. This is how the control center looks like. It's behind the front lines but not really far away. And immediately there are some of the strikes launched on that convoy. Artillery, FPV drones also equipped with thermal cameras. Again, because of that censorship, I cannot show you the full image, the full video of operation of Azov Regiment, but I'll repost it on my Telegram channel. What I may say over here that one more convoy was absolutely demolished. Mostly it is happening on the Russian controlled territory, the territory that was already occupied. In this particular case, Russia didn't attack, but they sent the new reinforcements which didn't reach their destination. And here you see the modified Russian BMP from that particular convoy. The drone protection meshes, but those didn't help either. This daytime image was taken early morning, but Russia mostly moves their forces during the night time. They thought that the Ukrainian army is blind during the night probably, but it doesn't really matter with modern technologies. But if Russia takes the ground, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're safe out there. For example, they took the Tylova village under control kind of a long time ago, so they used the remains of the buildings to hide their forces. But those buildings are within the range of the Ukrainian FPV drones, so Russians are not safe at all on occupied territories. It also complicates the rotation for the Russian armed forces, and their supply lines are totally disturbed by Ukrainian artillery and sometimes even the rocket artillery systems like HIMARS. It's just for you to understand why Russia has those tremendous losses. But we also have to say about the bad news which happened today with one more Ukrainian military airfields. Russia continued to send their surveillance drones which may fly for a very long distance and stay in the air for hours. They provide the live information to the Russian military command, the similar stuff as you saw in Ukraine just a minute ago, the same big screens and so on. And Russia launches their Iskander ballistic missiles to target Ukrainian military infrastructure. For the third day consecutive, Russia hits Ukrainian airfields. You may see a huge blast, so it's not the cluster munition in this case. However, there are lots of the shrapnel hitting the ground and nearby area. You may see that those missiles are really powerful. Russians report that they've got rid of the Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jet. However, on the picture which they show, there is Sukhoi-25 attack airplane under this anti-drone net, and also there are some of the containers, probably used to protect the airplane against some sort of the shrapnel. I wonder what is inside of those containers. If they're just hollow, it's not a significant protection of the airplane. And on this image we may see one more Sukhoi-25 attack airplane also hidden behind the containers. So actually on the video presented, I wasn't able to find MiG-29 Ukrainian fighter jets as Russia claimed. Probably they hit Sukhoi-25 because they hit this particular hangar which they showed before. Yeah, sorry, it's not the hangar but the protection of the airplane against some sort of the drones. The problem for Ukraine that during the Soviet times there were no robust hangars built to protect aviation. Mostly airplanes are based open air like in the Russian Federation as well. Well, any kind of the hangars are just useless against the Russian Iskander because those are very powerful, but still it's better than just the open air drone protection because the shrapnel still might hit many of the airplanes around. And here I just want to show you that particular military airfield. So this is the Kryvyi Rih city and this is the military airfield. As you may see it based on the image, it's that particular one. I mean the parking stands, yes, for sure it's the Kryvyi Rih. And definitely it's not that far away from the front lines or Russian control positions, so 80 kilometers away. Really nothing for surveillance drones with long-range operation like Orlan 10 or Zala, and it's also nothing for the Iskander ballistic missiles which may fly for 500 kilometers at least. So the border Ukrainian military airfields are under the huge threat, but also I would say any kind of the airfield airfields in Ukraine. We have some of the insights from the Telegram media of one of the Ukrainian soldiers. I constantly read him and he knows lots of the stuff. He's one of the officers of Aidar battalion. So he says about the situation which happened in Khmelnytsky, and there is the city of Starokonstantinov with this airfield. It's one of the main airfields in Ukraine that the Ukrainian Air Force is now using to strike the Russian army. The airfield is quite big with many of the parking stands, aprons, and it is the home base for many of the aircraft types. The good thing that this airfield is far away from the front line, so Russian surveillance drones are unable to reach it. But it still remains the main target for the Russian military. They try to hit it with cruise missiles which they launch from their strategic bombers, and also they launch many of the drones. And sometimes, unfortunately, their attacks are successful. Like for example, it happened recently with the Ukrainian fighter jet. That's what that soldier writes. One of the planes was driven to acceleration point, well, maybe to the runway, he says about this case. So it was left there for a very long time, and in around 1 hour, Russian missile hit the airplane, totally destroying it. And here's the question from that officer. Who knew about that case? Why this information was leaked to the Russian side? Because it was 100% leak. Again, the Russian surveillance drones are totally unaware about what is happening out there because they are unable to reach this military airfield. The Russian satellites are not working that fast to see live what is happening on the ground. So for sure someone gave the information about the airplane. Well, maybe it was just the accident, I mean with manipulation of the airplane itself. Maybe it was up to takeoff and there was a technical malfunction at the time, so it was stuck there in a place unable to taxi out, but the information about the aircraft location was definitely leaked. Because this airfield has lots of the parking spots and aprons, Ukraine constantly changes the locations of the airplanes. And we see that Russia also does it in their airfields. So without particular information for particular time, Russia is out of clue where to aim their missiles. So for Russia it's hard to predict, so Ukrainian intelligence services should look for the case and investigate of why Russia was successful out there. So I would say that it's the main threat for Ukrainian F-16 fighter jets operation. And here, by the way, you can see the high detailed inflated decoy of F-16. Those could be very useful for Ukrainian army as well, because it's really hard to define that it is really a decoy from the long distance or even from satellite. It is much better than to draw the airplanes on the apron with the paint. It's no-go absolutely. At the same time, Ukraine should have the ability to target the Russian military infrastructure, their airfields, with ATACMS. Well, Ukraine has already used ATACMS to hit the Russian military airfields, but only on occupied Ukrainian territories. For example, Berdansk, where Russia lost many of the helicopters, and the airfields of Crimea. Plus, Ukraine has eliminated many of the Russian air defense systems, quite expensive ones, S-400s, S-300s, and rumors say about S-500, but we don't have the confirmation about that case. By the way, we have some of the good news about the case coming from the United States State Department. They have approved the permission for Ukraine to use ATACMS against the Russian military infrastructure on the Russian territory. You may say awesome, but again they limit the range of those systems to be used against the Russian military down to 100 kilometers. Plus they noticed that this approval works only if Russia tries to expand the front lines, but Russia always tries to expand the front lines. So with this permission we are getting closer to reach the Russian military airfields, but still it's not enough for now. Because for example, the main Russian airfield of Baltimore, it is located in Voronezh city, which is also the base for the Russian Sukhoi 34 fighters bombers that drop the gliding bombs on Ukrainian facilities. Well, to reach it, Ukraine should cover 185 kilometers. 185, not 100. So almost half of the range is available. Let's check the Staroscol. It is one more big Russian military airfield, and it is located 107 kilometers away from the front lines, 7 kilometers more than needed. So legally Ukraine is unable to target this one, or even Kursk, because Kursk is also 107 kilometers away from the front lines. It looks like American military bureaucrats just look at the map and say, okay, 100 kilometers is enough. go ahead. You'll still have no capabilities to target Russian military aircraft. It's kind of the cynic, I would say, because Ukraine has that weaponry. It may fire for a really long range, but for now Ukraine is just legally unable to do it. The hands are just tightened. Well, you may say that there is the Russian military airfield of Belgorod, but Russia moved their airplanes out from that airfield because it's very close to the front line, so Ukraine may target it even with artillery systems. However, still the new permission gives Ukraine the opportunity to target all of the Russian military infrastructure within reach using not just GMLRS missiles but also ATACMS. Good news, but at the same time, as I show you, it's not enough to get rid of the Russian aviation threat. But I don't want to blame our main military ally because they really help Ukraine a lot. For example, today USA approved the new military package for Ukraine. It includes lots of the stuff, and the worth of it is billions of dollars this time. Well, actually there are two of the packages, one worth $150 million and one worth $2.2 billion. All of that because the Patriot missiles are very expensive. The packages are coming from different sources. For example, $150 million package lies within the United States $60 billion military support, but $2.2 billion is totally different American initiative. So Ukraine will obtain Hawk air defense, HIMARS missiles, TOW missiles and systems, Javelins, 84 anti-tank systems and anti-infantry, also Patriot missiles, NASAMS missiles, and also I guess Patriot systems, because there were lots of the talks ongoing about those, plus lots of the other different stuff. The United States of America postpones all of the contracts with other countries for the Patriot missiles to ensure that Ukraine obtains those missiles on time to protect F-16's fighter jets. By the way, those are announced to be this month coming to Ukraine. I'm eagerly waiting for that event. I think that you too. So what's the main problem really for Ukrainian air defense? Well, Ukraine has to use the very expensive missiles to hit very cheap Russian-made drones or Iranian-made drones like Shahids. And here our crew marks the cruise missiles which it was able to shut down with those, so it's awesome. But also there are numerous of the Shahid drones which were shut down by this particular system. And the price for the missile and the drone is just incomparable, but Ukraine has to use those expensive missiles, otherwise Russia might hit a very sensitive infrastructure of Ukraine using those simple drones. By the way, the Shahid drone was presented on some sort of the parade which took place in Minsk. Belarus celebrates the Liberation Day from the Nazi Germany. Well, hopefully in the future they'll also celebrate the Liberation Day from Russia. I wonder why Belarus shown those drones. Maybe they have them in their army. There's also the article from Bloomberg. They say that China is developing the attack drones for the Russian army. Those could be similar to Shahids. In the case of those drone supplyment to Russia by China, China would be nothing more but the next Iran. They would be the part of this war basically, and they should experience the same sanctions as, for example, Iran. Again, it confirms that the World War III has already been started between autocracies and democracies. Unfortunately, this war is in a hot stage on Ukrainian territory and also in the Middle East, but in Ukraine the scale is just tremendous. I think that the Hawk air defense system is cheaper compared to RST because it was developed a long time ago, but still it's kind of effective against the Shahid drones as well. Here we see the marks on the system. Again, many of the Shahid drones were shut down, but not only. We know that Ukraine is very effective in using GMLRS missiles to target the enemy infrastructure, while one more Russian radar was targeted today by Ukrainian HIMARS. Awesome achievement because those systems are damn expensive. It is crucial to get rid of those before Ukraine obtains F-16s. Yeah, our favorite part, the American politics. I know you like it a lot. We know that yesterday there was the information leaked about the Trump's peace plan. Well, today Zelensky commented on that. He called Trump to tell about his peace plan openly, and whether Trump really thinks that Ukraine should give up its territory in favor of Russia. Zelensky says that if there are risks for Ukraine to lose its sovereignty with this Trump peace plan, we should know about it. And Zelensky definitely admitted that there is this scenario for Ukraine to be just alone against Russia, but I don't think that it really will be like that. Even if Trump gets elected, if our main ally stops all of the military support, which I think will not happen, Ukraine still has allies in Europe. Well, Russia in that case could be more successful on the front lines, but they will be not able to take Ukrainian under control to slave the country, no. Also, there's going to be a military support of Ukraine from the NATO alliance. The NATO members agreed to allocate around $40 billion to support Ukrainian military the next year. So even without the United States, Ukraine will stay Ukraine. Donald Trump just has no tools to force Ukraine for surrender, because now basically the proposal from Putin and Russia is to capitulate for Ukraine. Those are not peace agreements or something. Alright, so what's about the current rating of Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Well, we'll see that after debates, Biden lost a couple of the points, but still this trend continues in favor of Donald Trump. However, they're very close to each other. What also influences the rating is the mass media services. They start to publish multiple of the articles about Joe Biden's uncertainty, about Democrats panicking, so obviously it also influences the rating. For example, Bloomberg says that the House Democrats demand Biden to withdraw from the presidential race. At the same time, during the White House briefing, they say that Biden rejects all of the initiatives to push him away from the president's race and vows to stay to the end. But what that end could be, positive or negative, for Biden personally or for America? Well, what we have here is the post from Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of California. He says that I heard 3 words from President tonight. He means Joe Biden. He's all in, so I am. So he definitely supports Biden. Joe Biden's had our back, now it's time to have his. It means that he is not determined to replace Biden on the run. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that everything is okay in Democratic camp. Definitely there was the panic, and really some part of Democrats are looking for alternates. But I think that it's too late for them to change something here. More political news here. Tucker Carlson, I call him the self-proclaimed journalist, says that looks like we've got Zelensky interview. We've got, it's the past tense, I think, or they've got just the permission from Zelensky's office. He complains that they were trying to do it for 2 years, especially after interviewing Putin in February. That interview was shocking for many Putin supporters, because Putin basically half of the interview, or maybe all of the interview, was speaking about history and how he sees it in his own stupid KGB mind. Tucker says that it's coming soon, we hope, so he's not yet sure about it. Well, we're gonna speak about it if it really happens. Well, after all, why not? Zelensky will speak to the audience of Tucker Carlson. The vast part of that audience doesn't like Zelensky or Ukraine, and some part of that audience even admire Putin and Russia. And something tells me that Zelensky is much better speaker compared to Putin. So we're gonna see kind of the interesting interview could be. The hospitals in Russia near the front line are just overwhelmed. There are lots and lots of the wounded personnel of the Russian army. And here are the hospital vibes. Open air, maybe there is no place inside, or maybe they were taken out to breathe the fresh air, with this improvised sound system that requires vodka to operate. Now, my friends, please don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.